The Pitt Expeditions are coming live to PC through a new public test, and we now know in detail how this system will work. Let's get into the preview. Hello everyone, welcome back to another Fallout 76 video. The Pitt Expeditions is one of the most anticipated new features for 76 in 2022, and after months of small details and teases from Bethesda's part, we are now in the final phase, where players can put their hands on the new content and test expeditions in the new pit. Moreover, there's a lot of scattered information around. As such, I decided to compile data mine assets as well as dev codes and official announcements to make this sort of preview/guide. This way I can show you guys the full picture and what to expect from the Pitt Expeditions. Alright then, I hope you're ready. Let's do this. Expeditions The Pitt is only scheduled to hit the official servers this fall, but its public test server is about to begin. That might sound strange, but it's true, I can assure you that much. In their latest ITV news, Bethesda announced that players will be able to test the Pitt in the coming days. In fact, they revealed the PTS structure. At first, only the first mission, Union Dues, will be available, but later on, they intend to add a second mission. They also mentioned the new missions are repeatable and tuned for endgame. Now, the latest public test for the summer DLC has concluded about 2 weeks ago, so it might come as a surprise to hear that Bethesda is planning to begin yet another PTS. It's the first time ever Bethesda opens a PTS so close to another one, but it's for a good reason. According to the lead designer Steve, the Expeditions PTS will be a long run, which aims to incorporate player feedback. This implies that Bethesda intends to change or rework Expeditions parts based on players' feedback, opinions, reports, and so on, which in my opinion is a positive thing. Moving on, a few days ago, Steve said the team is finalizing some parts while asked about an ATA for the new PTS. I suspect Bethesda will reopen the PTS servers this following Friday, May 13. Bethesda usually begins new PTSs on Fridays, and they announced this big news last Friday, May 6, while claiming the servers will open in the coming days. Coming days usually means from a few days to a week, so expect it to be very soon. Anyway, if you would like to get your hands early on Expeditions, then make sure to own Fallout 76 on PC and or migrate to Steam. Now everything is centralized on Steam, which makes things a bit easier to handle. Lastly, I checked the PTSD pods and there was a huge update sent a few days ago, which means Bethesda is really getting ready to launch Expeditions. Anyway, now let me explain how will everything work in terms of gameplay and structures. Expeditions as a system will have a background and an anchor point in Appalachia. The first expedition will obviously be to the Pit, but according to Bethesda, there will be many more expeditions to other cities in the future. However, it seems like there will be a faction guiding us for all expeditions. The responders are returning in mass to Appalachia. Well, in theory, they were always there since we left Vault 76. I mean, they left behind their sophisticated and automated tech, but now, real members, new NPCs, a tangible faction is coming and is going to be added to the game. So in the end, it's like the rebirth of the responders in the Wasteland. Now, I have seen some rumors about a possible denomination for this specific group, but developer Steve already said they will be called just responders and nothing else, nothing like second responders. They are all from the same faction with no subdivisions apparently. Well, I think it's safe to say we can expect plenty of responders lore, especially because they are getting a faction base right at the heart of the Whitespring Resort. The Responders' base of operations will be called Whitespring Refuge, and as you can imagine, it involves some renovations. The Whitespring Resort is about to change drastically, and the rework might not just affect the interior for all we know. After all, this is where the Vertibirds to access expeditions will be located. It would be really weird to see a shopper indoors, but you never know. Anyway, while talking about the Whitespring Refuge, Bethesda showed this screenshot, which is the side entrance of the Whitespring, which may be the main entrance to this new reworked interior. Now, what will change and what will remain? According to lead designer Steve, the team divided the interior into two cells, and the Responder's Refuge will be set in the second cell, which will transform the upper area of the building completely, while the lower mall with the vendors remains the same. It's also confirmed that the special vendors for Nuka-Cola, as well as the restaurant and the bar, will not close doors. Now, this is great news. It means all the vendors and useful areas will stay as they are, while the empty space upstairs will finally get some purpose. According to Steve, the Whitespring Refuge is meant to be some sort of centralized hub for players where you can access most utility assets in-game. The tricky part is to do not overdo it. Following this logic, Bethesda is adding the very first scrap box to the refuge, and perhaps some other things too. Lastly, if you are wondering if this rework will affect the Whitespring bunker or modus from the Enclave, the answer is probably no. Steve said the story and rework will not directly affect modus, but who knows, maybe something will change indirectly. You know, maybe he will have something to say about his new responder neighbors. That would be actually funny and cool in its own way. Anyway, let's keep moving. Alright, so the responders will be the anchor to expeditions, but before you can travel anywhere, you must recharge a new item called Ultracite Battery Cells. They will look like this, pretty fancy for display purposes, by the way. But how can you charge these batteries? Well, the responders will offer 3 refuge daily quests every single day. Each daily recharges 1/3 of the battery, so to fully recharge one, you need to complete all 3 dailies. According to the game files, players will have to head to the Monoga power plant to gather fuel for the batteries. Keep in mind that you cannot fly a Vertibird or start an expedition without a fully charged battery. That's very important. Now, once charged, this item will allow players to power up Vertibirds to access the pit, but only team leaders can start an expedition, which means if you simply join someone else's expedition, you won't need to use any batteries or charges at all. Moreover, Bethesda is turning the Ultracite Battery Cell into a new currency, which suggests you can accumulate more than 3 charges at once if you keep completing dailies over time. I don't know the limit, but that's what it looks like right now. Lastly, what's left to know is where the Vertibirds will be located. Will they be at the roof, at the golf fields, or perhaps at one of the entrances at the Whitespring? We don't know, but we will soon find out. Now, how will the pit work as a location? Well, even though it's the same pit explored in Fallout 3, it won't be the same exact pit in 76. After all, the timelines are about 200 years apart. In fact, Bethesda has already released 2 screenshots, and the assets there don't look as old and degraded as to be expected. I mean, 200 years in the past is visually noticeable. Furthermore, it doesn't seem like Bethesda will reintroduce the Fallout 3 pit map or allow players to explore the same exact areas there. Lead designer Steve already confirmed players will be able to explore new areas of the city, creating a fresh experience, even if you played Fallout 3 The Pitt. Moreover, the official screenshots already reveal the steelwork factory as well as a train yard, which might indicate some of the old districts are returning, but perhaps different areas will be featured instead. Moving forward, according to Bethesda, the level of detail of the pit is something out of this world, or something alike. Steve even said players won't expect the visual level of fidelity used to create this new version of the pit. Probably an after effect or an exclusive perk of Microsoft's acquisition of ZeniMax and Bethesda. I think it is. Anyhow, the 76 pit will also be a gritty, dark place as to be expected, and you probably won't find a lot of wacky, good-looking stuff around. When it comes to monuments and landmarks, it doesn't seem like Bethesda is going for those, despite using lots of in real-life Pittsburgh references. There are also some details on the new Trogs. Steve confirmed they are very scary enemies, and they now own a group behavior featuring different classes, such as heavy, melee, and range. It looks like you will never find a solo Trog again in 76. Sounds promising and hopefully challenging as well. Lastly, for those who might think or expect a connection between the two games, the two pits from Fallout 3 and 76, that's very unlikely. You can always play the old game to get familiar with the background and the area itself, of course, but do not expect the 76 pit to be a replica of any sorts. As I mentioned, the timeline gap is huge, and it would be weird if we in 76 could predict the future scene in Fallout 3. It would make sense for Fallout 3 to talk about the past, but they had no idea about the future content, so there's no way that exists there. Maybe there will be some sort of vague lore entries in 76 about Fallout 3 because it exists already, but I wouldn't expect anything too detailed or specific. The Pit will introduce a brand new faction, the Union, which will be responsible for the entire arc in this new location. There's lots of in-depth spoilers around about the story, but I know most of you guys hate lore or story spoilers, so I will restrain myself from it. Let's just say the Union is a friendly survivor faction in dire need of help against vicious raiders called the Fanatics. The main goal here is to assist the Union and defend their base called the Foundry. Now, for the first mission called Union Dues, players will be in contact with a new NPC called Hex, and then there are several possible objectives, such as freeing allied forces stuck inside the firehouse or cleaning the Foundry full of enemy forces, I guess the Fanatics. According to the existing assets, the first mission will be set at the Industrial District. Now, Steve already said each mission will be based on unique locations within the city, or perhaps the main location won't change at all. We also know expeditions will have a recommended level, aka difficulty, and players will be able to pause and resume their expeditions at will, which indicates each mission is rather long, at least while compared to daily ops. Lastly, there will be 2 expedition missions in 2022. The second one is not ready yet, but it will come later for testing, and then later it will be added with the first mission in fall. But we still don't know what is it about yet. Lastly, Bethesda confirmed the system is built to allocate even more missions in the future, so expect more expeditions in 2023. The Pit missions might sound intriguing at first, but the existing information suggests that expeditions will become Daily Ops 2.0 without wanting to be harsh. After all, the gameplay and concept used here are very, very similar, way too similar in my opinion. According to lead designer Steve, the expedition missions will feature repeatable story content with randomized objectives. Does that sound familiar to you? We have plenty of randomized variants working in daily operations. Anyway, Steve often refers to expeditions as repeatable content, and that kind of scares me. 76 and repeatable content usually doesn't go well, or doesn't end well. Remember Vault Raids, or Nuclear Winter, or even Survival Mode with all the repeatable challenges? Or even Daily Ops, which is one of the most unpopular features right now. I often struggle to fill up a Daily Ops team to do the daily challenges, and sometimes the servers are full. It just shows how people dislike Daily Ops. But it gets worse. I found a statement where a player points out expeditions will be like Daily Ops, but without a time limit, and this is the answer from Steve. Yes, if you mean like repeatable combat-oriented content for solo to 4 players, then yes. Yep, it's Daily Ops 2.0 right there, guys. I hope I'm wrong. I really want to be wrong, but all the facts are pointing that way. So don't get your expectations too high for something amazing, for something new out of this world. I don't think it will be. It's going to be nice and great because it's new content, but the format is from daily operations with some twists, with some changes, but yeah, the main core, I think it's very familiar. It would be silly to create a system of such dimensions without plenty of new rewards. But for Expeditions, there is a very positive catch. For once, Bethesda will allow players to choose their rewards. Yes, you heard me right. You will be able to choose. So what can you get from each expedition to start with? Well, lots of stuff, from basic rewards like experience, legendaries, to new The Pitt themed items. But for that, you must complete the optional objectives in the missions. According to Bethesda, players can only get one of these new rare rewards once per week, which includes new power armor, outfits, camp items, and more. But hold on, every time you complete an expedition, you will earn a new currency called stamps, which can then be exchanged for the Pitt rare rewards at your will, if you bring them to Giuseppe at the Whitespring Refuge. Well, it was about time we get some sort of freedom in choices when it comes to rewards, instead of pure RNG. Bethesda explained this rewards pool change to be part of an adjustment to players' feedback from daily operations. The idea is to create a more consistent and predictable reward gain. This will surely make a lot of people happy. Imagine no more endless duplicates, and you can just buy your favorite rewards without relying on the RNG gods. It's a dream come true. Bring it on. What about the automatic axe and other iconic Pitt rewards? Fear not, my friends, Bethesda is planning to add a second rewards pool where players can unlock even more exclusive rewards like the auto axe and Union power armor. However, it's still not clear how will it work. But I did find some promising quotes from lead designer Steve, which indirectly suggests steel ingots might make a return. Now, it's not 100% certain steel ingots from Fallout 3 will be a new currency in 76, but it would make a lot of sense. In fact, even the Fallout 3's Pitt used such a system. Players could exchange steel ingots for a dozen of rare Pitt rewards, as shown, such as new weapons, new armor, and outfits. Well, if steel ingots are left behind, if that actually happens, well, in case steel ingots are left behind, there surely will be another currency, unless the Union folks will be trading with our Appalachian money, caps or gold bullion. It's unrealistic, but it's a faint possibility. Now, let me talk a bit about enemies and teams. Bethesda has already clarified that expeditions will be open for everyone with no level restrictions, so that's good. Each mission can be soloed or done as a 4-player party. Plenty of freedom there too. Apparently, enemies scale up to the party, adjusting the difficulty, which is very handy and a must-have for balanced purposes. Now, developer Steve said it's not recommended to solo below level 50, but it's totally doable for, let's say, level 20s to do it as a team, since enemies scale up to your level. Plus, players can always pause their expeditions if things become too harsh and they run out of resources, for example. However, for brand new characters with hardly any gear, items, or perks, it's not recommended to join expeditions since, well, failure is most likely certain in that scenario. I don't want to scare you guys just yet, but I did find this old post from Steve where he claims the expedition's timer works based in real life's time, and dying there means you are out for real. Now, I don't want to take his words in the literal sense, especially because the post is very old, but if this is true, if this is actually going to happen, it's a whole new level of difficulty, especially for bloodied builds. Can you guys imagine? You cannot die, not even once, and it's going to be a long run? Yeah, I don't think people will be happy about this. But let's not panic yet. Let's wait and see for real if it's going to be that way. If not, everything is fine. If yes, then we can riot. Yes, we should riot. Lastly, Bethesda is going to introduce a new public team type dedicated to expeditions. Lead designer Steve already confirmed this fact, and there's even a new banner in the game files, so you can expect to see this one in the PTS soon enough. Anyway, team leaders will have some perks, such as earning bonus stamps when completing an expedition as compensation for delivering a charged battery. Also, each player is only able to start one single expedition per day, but they can join as many as they wish. So if they have many friends starting expeditions, they can join as they please. enemies. As for bosses, it's unlikely to find any major boss inside the pit, but since the system seems to follow the daily ops model, at least concept-wise, you should expect similar bosses too, minor ones. Lastly, it seems like expedition leaders will be able to grief others since there is no mechanism to prevent them from kicking other members when the mission is about to get completed. So watch out, it's just a word of advice. It's best to do expeditions with friends. Now yes, I know in general the 76 community is very friendly and this is not likely to happen, at least not frequently, but I had my share of griefing in the past, so I do know how people can behave and to what extent some people can go to grief others. So better safer than sorry, I would say. It's too early to have a solid opinion on the Pit expeditions, but so far things are looking promising. We are getting plenty of new content and rewards to collect. New enemies, new NPCs, new faction, a new map, new assets to explore, so that's amazing. What worries me though is the repeatable factor, the randomized objectives. I hope there are many at least, otherwise if there's only a couple things will get tedious very, very quickly. Also, if the dead rule is indeed real, that will be a disaster. Imagine all the bloodied builds and new players unable to complete a single expedition because they cannot die once. It doesn't sound bueno, not at all. So I think there will be lots of polishing and adjustment to be done. That's what the PTS is for, right? Well, at least the new reward system looks fantastic. Goodbye RNG, never lucky again. But what about you? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. That concludes my preview of Expeditions The Pitt. There are a lot more minor details from Bethesda's part, but that's maybe for another time, it's too much. Also, feel free to watch my other overviews on expeditions if you would like to learn more. I have been covering the matter over time from the past months as information gets out. Anyway, that's it for now. Feel free to leave a like, subscribe, and all of that. My name is Marta Branco. A huge thanks to all my supporters, and I will catch you all in the next video. Until then, take care, adeus, bye bye!